नमस्कार मित्रों, आज हम एक बहुत अपने पड़ोस के ही बहुत ही उम्दा कवि और संगीतकार, साथ ही कविता प्रेमी, पोइट्री एक्टिविस्ट को लेकर आने वाले हैं. फ्रेंड्स, टुडे we are with a very great poet of Uzbekistan, which is actually our neighboring country, which was the part of Russia, Great Russia, once upon a time when Tashkent was very popular and very popular in India. From there, we are inviting a poet called Azam. He is very popular internationally. He is activist and he has done wonderful work. You will know about him while we talk to him. So, Azam, welcome to you to Kritya Talk. How are you? How is your country in this lockdown?
I'm okay. Thank you so much, dear Rati Saxena, for inviting me to this wonderful show. I usually watch your channel. It's really very good, especially in this time of lockdown for everybody in the world, including Uzbekistan. We are doing, I could say, we are doing fine with virus, with COVID-19. The cases are being decreasing day by day. So we can go outside, but still, of course, not too many events outside. We missed a lot of events, especially poetry, reading sessions, music sessions, theaters. But you can still go to the parks with your families, and sometimes you can even gather with a sort of group of people. You can read poetry and you can share good things with your friends, of course, but not too big events. Like you cannot go to the bigger library to do some events. So thank you so much, Rati, for inviting me. I hope we will have good conversation with you about everything. Thank you.
As we know about Tashkent, Tashkent was very common name for us because it was a part of Great Russia. And we have another kind of dream about Tashkent. It was very popular in my childhood because we were getting my childhood. All the storybooks came from the Tashkent. That's what we understood because they were got the translated and beautiful storybooks. We used to watch because the beautiful books were coming there, so we had a connection with this place. Though now Uzbekistan is a separate country, but the Tashkent is the name which is very very close to Indians, and especially the Indians of my age group. So, uh, uh, but what I feel that your poetry is different than the poetry of Russia in modern time because we have some common friends from Russia also, and your poetry has a kind of music in it, a kind of rhythm which comes from that from the mountains, from the valleys, from the air, from the nature. So just first you tell about your country and how it is politically or economically growing up.
Thank you, Rati. Excellent question. I'm very glad that you received some books from Tashkent. Were they in English? You received the books? Did you
Hello?
receive English books from Tashkent?
No, those days they used to get translated. Those
Oh,
books,
great. Okay.
in
Thank you.
Hindi,
Anyway.
Malayalam, in any language, we used to get in translation. Those days,
Wow,
these
good to
books were
know.
in translation.
Yeah, I remember we had a very interesting and big translation
Mm.
group, Society of Translators back in the Soviet times.
Mm,
Unfortunately, we don't have them a lot here now in modern Uzbekistan. So
mhm,
Uzbekistan actually was bigger part of Soviet times, Soviet Union, and we are now independent for 29 years already. With the new president who is in power for 4 years already, we are doing, I could say, we are doing better than in the previous times. We are doing better in terms of economy. We are doing better in terms of opening up to the world, democratic values. We are doing better in terms of relationships with other countries, of course. However, I cannot say we are doing good with in terms of literary relationships. We have a big gap between Uzbek literature and world literature. If you compare Soviet times, we had, as I mentioned, we had a bigger group of people working to bring literatures closer with each other. However, this tradition has become a little bit not very active these times because of the economic situation in the country, because of the not so good activeness of people, especially creative people in the country. But anyway, I can say we are opening to the world step by step. I like this word step by step because we are trying to do something in terms of cultural relationship, in terms of exchange, especially exchange of cultural people, literature people, poets and writers. But we need, I believe, we need a lot of time. We need more and more time to make our country progressive, to make our country active in this matter. But still, I'm glad that we can do at least something. In terms of poetry, as you mentioned, yes, we have still Uzbek poetry is watered by classical poetry. You know, Eastern poetry is very rhythmical, very they used to form poetry, to build poetry within such like poetic forms like such as rhythm or kafia, like rhyming or radif. So we had a lot of still tradition in Uzbek poetry that a lot of poets write rhyming poetry, and only you can say a few poets write free verse poetry because we like reading poetry in wedding ceremonies, in birthday parties, or in bigger meetings with our friends and relatives. So Uzbek poetry, like poetry in Uzbekistan, I would say is not marginal. You can read poetry in many meetings. It is small or big. You still want to read poetry. You still want to read poems. And we have this channel, like social media channel called Telegram. It has become so popular among Uzbek people. It is very popular in Russia, I believe. It is very popular in many countries, but in Uzbekistan, it has become really very popular. Even housewives or like elderly people or every school children like have this Telegram channel. They usually share good poetry with each other. They read poetry every day. They share poetry every day, and I'm very glad that poetry has not become marginal in Uzbekistan. So you can even see poems published in political papers, everyday newspapers, daily newspapers publish poetry, or we have a lot of magazines publishing poetry. But of course, the matter is not only about publication. It is not only about the greatness of poetry. It is also about the quality of poetry and about who is a poet in modern Uzbekistan. So I would be very glad to share my ideas about modern Uzbek poets. Who is that? Who is that poet now? What is thinking? What is the Uzbek poet thinking about nowadays, especially in the times of opening up to the world? Uzbekistan being a very small, not very big country, of course, but still bigger, the biggest in the Central Asia. So we have about 35 million of population. Of course, in comparison with India, it is very small, but still we are the biggest country in Central Asia. And I dream, I would like the creative people, especially poets, have to become the avant-garde. So the first people who should create something for the nation, who should vote for democratic values, who should take the people forward, who should develop the people's minds and hearts and upbring them to build a better society, not only for Uzbekistan, but for the wider region, for the entire world, of course. So that's why, Rati, I would just like to share my views about who is the Uzbek poet now. I cannot say that maybe because of the economic situation, maybe because of some other household issues or like some work issues. Unfortunately, Uzbek poets now are not very active. Of course, we have a few poets. We have a group of poets who are active, who try to do something to improve society, to improve souls and hearts of people. But you don't see this at this time of development of our country. So I really want Uzbek poets become the first creators and initiators of good things, good projects, good exchange, good friendship, good tolerance, good relationship with the world. I really want this. I really want this.
Yeah, this is a very good thing what you are saying, that you are actually inviting poets to build the nation, because your country is quite young country.
Right.
29 is not very big, because I still remember when this was Great Russia was broken. So you want them, you're inviting or expecting poets, and you're telling that even the poetry is given place to political papers in a society, in the families, in the elder between the elders, between the younger. So that is fantastic thing. That is very positive thing. I will feel. Though in many countries poets are not welcome now, because in many countries
Yeah.
uh, it is said that poets are, even those all intellectuals are not welcome, because there is a fear that they may uh, change the mind, or they may not allow to change the mind in a certain manner. And poetry is always honest, because it is balanced. If it is a pure poet, it is a real poet, he will be balanced. He will see that what is good and what is bad. And that is why poetry is not welcome in many countries if in modern time. But I am very happy, that very glad that in your country, even the political papers are giving a space to poetry, and it is a part of society. So this is a culture which is inbuilt in your society. Now, I know that you are doing fantastic job. You have started 3 years back. That was the poetry. There's a poetic residency or residency for poets, and it was a very different from other kind of residencies. Means you are inviting poets. Of course, they have to come with their own or with their help of their own organizations, and then you are organizing their stay with your fellow people who are, sometimes they are poets, sometimes they are not poets. And so this is one way that a poet is living, because staying in a hotel is of course comfortable, but it is not very poetic, because when you live with the society, then only you, or with the family, then only you will understand that who is interested, what you are doing, what how you eat, how you work and what is your daily life. That is how you understand society well. So that you are doing. And another thing, then you are taking them to schools, colleges, different places, and traveling with them. So that is actually fantastic project. And you always because in this before lockdown, even I was coming to your this residency for 15 days along with my husband. You remember that we have to cancel that because of
Yes,
this.
unfortunately.
Everything was booked. So another thing was is that this was actually without any kind of government help. You have you have taken initiative, and people were supporting you. What was your idea and how did you start it? And which is a wonderful thing which cannot happen. But this thing shows one. This is showing one thing, that your society is still having the human connection, which is very rare now, because we have two kind of society. One live in a poverty in village, dark, and another is lightened, but their style, they are living, they don't want to share their space. But your people are sharing the space also. So tell me that what was your idea and how you have done that. That was fantastic
Thank you, Rati.
idea.
I would love to tell the story behind it. Um, the first thing you should know is that if you ask something about Uzbek people, everybody who has become in our country, in Uzbekistan, they say hospitality is the number one thing they got from Uzbekistan. And that is true. I tell you as a poet myself, as an Uzbek citizen myself, hospitality is the number one virtue, number one dignity for Uzbek people. You are welcome anytime. We welcome anybody uh, who wants to join us. That's why I have been thinking about doing something for my fellow brothers and sisters from throughout the world. I myself, as you know, traveled here and there. A lot of times we met together, for example, several times here and there. I met a lot of good people, good poets and writers in many, many countries. Uh, I have been first time abroad. It was in 2004. I was a resident fellow in Iowa Writers Program in the U.S. Since then, I have been dreaming to open something very small for poets and writers from other countries to come to Uzbekistan and to do something, to share best practices, to do some joint projects together. Unfortunately, with the first president who ruled the country for more than 20 years, we couldn't do anything in terms of international literary relations. Only with the new presidents who came to power 4 years ago, as I mentioned, we gradually started to open up to the world, and we could bring someone from foreign countries, like on our own. Even now, I cannot say that we still can be open to do something bigger. However, we still can do something small, like my initiative, and I call it Uz Lab, Uzbekistan's Literature and Art Bridge, which is very small, of course. And in 2018, as you mentioned, I brought three people, poets, writers, and theater people, and one artist from Bulgaria. And we started with three people in 2018, and we gradually started
You
to bring
invited that time
more
me also.
authors.
I was not well at that time. Yes, in 2018.
Right.
Yeah, you have
Yeah,
invited
yeah,
me
yeah,
also, but I couldn't come
yeah.
because I was not well. Yeah,
I,
I
I, I
remember.
know, as you know, when we meet somewhere in the world, people always ask me, Azam, do you have something in Uzbekistan? You have wonderful country. We read about your country. We hear about your country. We watch something about your country. Do you have something like poetic or writers event? I say oh my gosh, this is my dream to do something like this in my country. But unfortunately, we couldn't do anything. That is true. And only now we can do something. And I started 3 years ago. And with the pandemic, unfortunately, we couldn't do this last year. But hopefully, we'll do it again in fall, in autumn this year. I'm very hopeful that I can bring more poets and writers from around the world. And the idea of this initiative was not only to bring foreign friends to Uzbekistan, but the main idea was to help Uzbek poets and writers and creative people to mingle, to interact, to learn something from their friends, from their foreign friends in the country, in Uzbekistan, because Uzbek artists, Uzbek writers and poets have some limited opportunity to go abroad because of economic problem, because of the language barrier. They cannot speak, for example, English well. They can speak maybe Russian or Turkish, but not English. But if you want to go somewhere, for example, to Europe or even to India or any other country, you should learn, at least you should know English. But this is the big problem for Uzbek poets and writers and artists. So the idea was to help Uzbek creative minds in Uzbekistan by bringing their friends to their homes, to their houses, to their flats. This was the biggest idea of my project. So when I invite, for example, a poet from India or a poet from Europe, I usually tell them, you will not be living in a hotel. You will not be living somewhere in a guest house. You will be living with your friend, with your poet friend. You will be living with your writer friend. You will be living with your artist friend in their houses, in their small flats, or in the village where they have big yard in the garden. It is something like that, and people love this idea. And we already brought more than 40 people from around the world, even from Australia, from the United States, from India, from Japan, from Europe. Many people, many good friends of us are willing to come to Uzbekistan for these programs. I'm very happy the initiative is working, and it is working because I have more than 100 volunteers who are willing to help, who are willing to learn, who are willing to exchange, who are willing to become a host for you, for our friends from throughout the world, because they really want to learn something from you. They really want to give something to you, to share something good with you, to do something, to work on some good projects in the future. So this was the idea of my project. We are a group of volunteers. As I told you, we don't have any support from the government. We don't have any support from like businesses, but we would like to have that. We would like to the government to join our initiative, because this is good for them. This is good for the government to make Uzbekistan better in the eyes of the world, because they are trying to do something so that Uzbekistan is has it should become famous in the world. They want to improve Uzbekistan as a good culture, as a good poetry place, as a good writers place. But we have not come together yet. But I really hope we will come together one beautiful day. I will be working with the government. I will persuade them this is a good initiative for them to join, of course. And this is my like goal for the near future. So I'll be trying to work with the cultural ministry, with the Writers Union of Uzbekistan, with the Academy of Artists, or with the museums, literature museums especially. I will try to work with them. Of course, I have a lot of channels so far. I have good schools. I have museums trying to work with me, trying to our volunteers. So we have enough places. If you come, for example, right to Uzbekistan, I will be taking you not only to schools, not only to museums and libraries. I'll be also taking you to the historic places so that you can familiarize yourself with the good culture of Uzbekistan, with some good artists. You will be meeting with the school children. You will be meeting with scholars. So you will have a better idea what is real Uzbekistan. So this is my aim. I will not be promising any guests coming that we will make like very pompous, very great places to live, but still we have everything in place to bring and to host our good friends from anywhere in the world. So, Rati, you're again invited to Uzbekistan. I'm very hopeful you'll be our dear guest one day in my country.
Yeah, it was a big loss and big setback for us because we had planned for, we had dreamed for the Uzbekistan. Because in your poetry, in your film, in your photos and all, it's so beautiful. What I learned from you that for 20 years the government was very difficult for the poets, but now the government is little better. But still, you are working from your side and showing. Then you can show the government that how it could be helpful to the country. I am very much
Right.
impressed I am very much impressed to learn that you are your project is very uh, in favor for your country, for your culture, for people. Same time, you are actually keeping alive uh, your old tradition. In India, also we used to say
Exactly.
"Atiti Devo Bhava," that the guests are like God. That is in our culture also. It was like this. So I heard that how long does the Uzbekistani poet? Uzbekistani is the same language. You are also using Russian language, or you are using different language.
The Uzbek language is absolutely different than the Russian language. Uzbek language is very close to Turkish. It is very close to Turkmen. It is very close to Azeri language, Azerbaijan language. So if you speak with Turkish people or with Azerbaijani people, we understand each other. So in Central Asia, we have like 5 countries, but Tajikistan is different language. Tajik language is very close to Farsi. Other 4 languages, Kyrgyz, Kazakh, Turkmen, Azerbaijan, Turkish, very similar. So we can understand each other if we speak. Of course, literary translation, totally different, but we still can understand each other because it is one family. So we belong to Turkish family, Turkic family,
And it is
and it is
the
totally different than Russian, totally different.
and the script.
But
What
still,
about the script?
yeah, but the script is we in modern Uzbekistan we use now both Cyrillic and Latin, and it is
With
up to you to
Latin,
choose.
Latin.
Latin and Cyrillic. Yes, it
Okay.
is up to you to choose. Younger generation at schools, for example, are studying in Latin, basically. But my
Like
generation, older generation, yes, they prefer the Cyrillic. It is easier for them to read. For me, also, Cyrillic is better because I grew up in Cyrillic. I read a lot of books in Cyrillic, but I don't mind reading in Latin because I also read in English. That's why Latin is also very comfortable for me. Both I use Cyrillic and Latin, and it is acceptable for anyone to use any Latin or Cyrillic. It doesn't matter, but still Russian is totally different language. However, since we were part of Soviet Union in the past, for a long time, for more than 80 years. I cannot say everybody speaks Russian, but a lot of people speak Russian, especially in the capital city, Tashkent. Many people speak Russian. Yes, very, very well. I also speak Russian very well.
And what about the poetry or ancient poetry of Uzbekistan in your language, not in Russian?
Yes, it is in Turkic language. For example, the father of Uzbek poetry, Alisher Navoiy, who lived 600 years back, and he wrote his poems in Chagatai. We
Can
call
you
it Chagatai.
can you repeat the name?
Alisher Navoiy.
Alicia Navo.
Alisher Navoiy. Yes,
Alicia
Alisher
Navo.
Navoiy is the
Ah,
father of Uzbek literature.
okay.
He
Alicia
was
Navo.
born in the 15th century. Yes, he's the
15th
biggest name in Uzbekistan. Yes, 15th century. And
century.
he wrote his poems in Turkic language, not Turkish, Turkic, which is like modern Uzbek. It
Mhm.
is unfortunate that if I read his poems in original
Mhm.
Turkic,
Mhm.
I can maybe understand like 75%
Mhm.
as a poet myself, but ordinary people might only understand 50% of it because the language has developed since then, and we call it like old language. So we call it like Chagatai old language or Turkic language, and it is little different than the modern Uzbek language. The modern Uzbek language has a lot of words from Russian, a lot of words from Farsi and Arabic, but still it is very not very different with the older version of Uzbek language, which is Chagatai, which is the language of Alisher Navoiy. But still, yeah, we read his work in original. Sometimes, if we don't understand, especially ghazals, as you know, they have rhythmic and rhyming system is very difficult, very complicated. We have to look into the dictionary a lot of times because in poetry, especially in older times, and when Alisher Navoiy wrote his poetry, he used a lot of symbolic words, a lot of philosophical words, a lot of like religious understanding. You should have a very good of understanding of religion, very good understanding of Sufism, especially. So he used a lot of Arabic words, Farsi. So it's a mix of it was a mix of Farsi, Arabic, and Turkic in one in his poetry. That's why modern Uzbeks cannot everybody like normal like ordinary Uzbek cannot understand his poems completely.
Can you read one or two ghazal of Shah
Alisher Navoy in
Navoy?
Uzbek or in Uzbek? Oh, in
First
Uzbek
you
or
read in
in English?
Uzbek. First you read in Uzbek.
In Uzbek. Okay,
First. Ah,
I will just read like maybe two couples.
mhm.
İsteyenler bizni sahroyi baloda istangiz. Vodiy hicron ila dashti fanoda istangiz. وامق فرهاد و مجنون دکلرول وادی ارا بلسلر پیدا نینیخم ul arada istañez. This was like two
Beautiful.
couplets from the ghazal. Yeah,
Ghazal.
usually ghazals are like about like until up to 24 lines usually ghazals, but mainly they're like 12 lines, 14 lines, usually like 14 lines, but there is no restriction in terms of length of the ghazal. Yeah. Do you
Beautiful.
want me to read in
Yeah,
English something?
yeah, yeah.
Let me read something.
I
Yeah.
will listen. I will try. I like to listen, but I can feel this poem because I heard such kind of voice from the Afghanistani poet and
Yeah.
Bil-
Afghanistan actually has a lot of languages and
Baluchistan, the poet from the Baluchistan also
right.
reads such kind of language in such kind of voice. Yeah.
Yeah, let me read one of the ghazals I translated into English. Uh, for me to die in bitter torment is the easy bit without you. I better die. Yeah, so to stay, I can't admit without you. A dead man cannot breathe at all. However, when you look at me, the lamentation and weeping do not end without you. Like thunder, lightning over hill, out of public eye at nights, the wailing cry of me delirious, don't defeat without you. Grief and trouble of disease aren't frightful for lifeless flesh. The burden of yearning bedevils, it's quick to hit without you. Naoi would be immortal if you do not break the tryst, but he can live not a moment. Life will split without you.
Wow, yeah, this translation is wonderful. It looks like
Yeah,
ghazal.
thank you.
Yeah, it looks like a ghazal itself, and
Yeah,
the way you read
yeah,
the ghazal. Now
thank
you read.
you, Rati.
I would love you to read a few poems from your first. You read in Uzbek, your language, and then if three poems translation I'm having, I can read in Hindi. First, you read it, and I want you to sing also one or two poems. So, do you want to sing
Thank you.
or you want to read first?
Let me read first, if you don't mind.
Okay,
Let
please.
me read this poem. I am clay.
Yeah,
I am clay, liquid and weak. I have neither tongue nor mouth to speak. Everyone likes to make some figure from me, to make a shape. I am clay, liquid and weak. I always go through palms. I leak, I leak.
beautiful. Can you read this poem in Uzbek language itself? I want to listen
Actually,
to it. I want to
yeah,
listen to the rhythm.
yeah, Rati. Actually, I write in both Uzbek and English.
Mhm.
This poem, like this particular poem, I am clay, I wrote directly in English,
Very good. So,
but
I will read.
but
No, no, I will
I
read
can
the
read
Hindi
something in
translation.
Uzbek.
No, no problem. I will read in Hindi
Okay, thank you.
translation. मैं माटी हूँ, मैं माटी हूँ गीली और मुलायम। मेरे पास ना तो जीभ है, ना ही मुंह बात करने को। हर कोई मुझसे कोई ना कोई आकृति बनाना चाहता है। आकार में आने के लिए ही मैं माटी हूँ, गीली और मुलायम। मैं हरदम हथेलियों से गुजरती हूँ, छूती हूँ, चूती हूँ और चूने लगती हूँ। So
Thank you
it's a,
so much, Rati.
it's beautiful.
Thank you.
And
I
yeah, the
hope one day we'll come together and I will read your poems in Uzbek. You will
yeah,
read my poems in
yeah,
Hindi,
your
inshallah.
book was on the way to the press, and I because of lockdown I couldn't do that. You have done this translation long back, and
Thank you.
this is I have two more poems. These are also you have written in English, too long, and there is a bird.
There is a boat is in Uzbek.
Yeah, please read
There
the
is a
there.
boat in Uzbek.
Then I will read in Hindi.
Okay.
Mm,
Bir qush bor. Men bir qushga o'xshar emishman.
mm,
Moslik topib har yil fasliga. O'zimni ham taniyman qisman.
mm,
Endi qanot chiqqan aslida.
mm,
Lekin meni o'xshatmang, hayhot.
mm,
Quruq nomga madhiya aytib, shunday qush bor, etsang-da ozod, uchib kirar qafasga qaytib. Meni o'sha qushga o'xshatmang.
Beautiful. See, listening a language itself is a poetry. You need not decode it. You could not open it. When you listen a poem, because when I will be reading in Hindi, it will be entirely different poetry what you read, because I cannot read like yours. Beautiful your language and beautifully you read. So this is
Thank you, Rati.
there is a bird, वो वहां पर वहां एक चिड़िया है। मुझे बताया गया कि मैं एक चिड़िया हूँ। मुझे सभी मौसम भाते हैं। अपने आप को समझना मेरे लिए इतना संभव भी नहीं। उड़ने के लिए मेरे पास पंख हैं। फिर भी मेरे लिए ये मत गाओ, बहुत ज्यादा प्रशस्ति भी मत करो। मैं चिड़िया हूँ और इस तरह एक चिड़िया को उसकी आजादी दे दो, लेकिन ये फिर से पिंजरे में आ जाएगी। फिर भी ये मत कहो कि मैं एक चिड़िया सा हूँ। खूबसूरत। This is beautiful, because uh,
Thank you, Rati. Thank you so much.
but when you read it, it's so beautiful. I feel that your reading or your Uzbek poem reaches to my skin, that is better than my own translation of your poem from English. One thing I never like
Thank
to
you, Rati.
translate from the English, because why this is the third translation, which makes because the first poem is not a problem because you have written in English, so you can translate in English. But from Uzbekistan to English and then is English to Hindi, uh, the taste is a little bit different. So, do you want to read one more poem? I am having the too long, the second, third poem.
Let me let me read too long in English.
Yeah.
We strive to go to rich countries, send our husbands and wives. They do hard work or sell themselves. The other people in this country have luxurious weddings from the sent money and sing a song of happiness. We all work for the government. The tongue of the government is too long.
Beautiful. Too long. uh, Actually, after why I enjoy this poetry, because the same situation I see in Kerala, not in whole India, but in Kerala for years it is happening that somebody's husband, somebody's wife, they go to Gulf countries as a nurse or any, and then they send money here. People enjoy it, and most of the money is spent in the marriages and house building, which is actually useless things, not
Oh
construction.
gosh, yeah,
So
waste of money.
I was connecting myself to this the poem, because not myself, with this my ideas also with this poem. So बहुत लंबी, हम अक्सर बहुत अमीर देशों में जाना चाहते हैं। कोई अपने पति, कोई अपनी पत्नी को भेजता है। वे मेहनत करते हैं और फिर शायद अपने आप को ही बेच देते हैं, और दूसरे देश से इस देश में धूमधाम से हम शादियां रचाते हैं। उनके भेजे हुए पैसों से खुशी के गीत गाते हैं, और हम अपनी सरकार के लिए काम करते हैं। और सरकार की जीभ बहुत लंबी होती है, बहुत लंबी होती है। इट्स फैंटास्टिक, पॉलिटिकल एज वेल एज सोशल, though it is very small poem, but it is beautiful. So thank you.
Thank you,
And
Rati.
I would love to listen your music, the poem on the on your piano. You have to change your setting, so I will give you
Okay.
2 minutes to do change your setting. You change your setting, please. तो हम लोग इनसे सुन रहे हैं आज। बहुत जरूरी था, लेकिन कम लोग जुड़े हैं कि एक उज्बेकिस्तान जो राज्य है, जो एक बार रशिया का ही हिस्सा है, वहां पर क्या स्थिति है उसके बारे में इन्होंने बहुत खुल के बताया है। और दुख की बात है कि लोग बाग कुछ समझना नहीं चाहते हैं, हमारे पड़ोस में क्या हो रहा है, देश में क्या हो रहा है, दूसरे देश में क्या हो रहा है, उसको सीखना नहीं चाहते हैं। कम लोग जुड़े हैं आज, लेकिन फिर भी जो बाद में जुड़ेंगे उनके लिए भी ठीक रहेगा। ये एक बहुत खूबसूरत देश है जो एक बहुत अजीब है, जबकि ताशकंद का नाम हमारे लिए बहुत परिचित है, लेकिन जैसा इन्होंने बताया कि ये अलग सा देश है, क्योंकि रशियन होते हुए भी पूर्ण रशियन नहीं है। तो अभी आजम शायद ठीक हो गए हैं। हाँ, आजम विल लाइक टू लिसन योर पोइट्री।
Okay, thank you. I'll be just um, playing a piano and then we'll be singing a very short song. Ziyaretgâh zamonamiz, umrimiz baqi. To'planibdi oshnolarning yaqin yirog'i. Dog'larda orasida jonajon soqi. Qo'y qadoqlarini yangrasin ozod vatan obod hamma bo'lsin qo'y qadoqlarini yangrasin ozod vatan obod hamma bo'lsin baxtiyor.
Azam, can you adjust your mic because your song is not coming nicely and piano
Oh,
is
really?
quite
I'm sorry.
yeah, yeah. So we could
Okay.
not hear what you sing. Mostly the piano song, piano's voice was very high,
Oh,
but it's
sorry
okay.
about that.
No problem. You can sing
Okay.
another song on the piano
Okay, maybe
with
I
a
will
light.
just play a
Uh,
music. I will just play a music.
no, I want to listen your music also. Yes, you can play music, and we can listen your song also. Yeah.
Okay. Ziyaretgâh zamonamiz, umrimizga boqiy. To'planibdi oshnolarning yaqin yirog'i. Qadrdonlar davrasida jonajon soqi. To'ldirib qo'y qadoqlarini yangrasin dunyo. Xalqlar ozod vatan obod hamma bo'lsin baxtiyor. To'ldirib qo'y qadoqlarini yangrasin dunyo. Xalqlar ozod vatan obod hamma bo'lsin baxtiyor. Qon qarindosh xalqlar o'sgan vatan hurmati. Mehnatimiz obod etgan jamoan hurmati. Avlodimiz o'ynab yurgan zamon hurmati. Ko'tarib qo'y qadoqlarni yangrasin dunyo. Xalqlar ozod vatan obod hamma bo'lsin baxtiyor. To'ldirib qo'y qadoqlarni yangrasin dunyo. Xalqlar ozod vatan obod hamma Arosot vatanobot hamba bulsun baxtiyor.
Beautiful. It is very beautiful. Thank you very much. Thank you very much
Thank
for a
you.
beautiful
Thank
song.
you.
And because this is actually the real way to sing a ghazal. I remember that in India also, the ghazals are sang very well. We have also tradition of singing ghazal. But
Oh my
this is
gosh, yeah,
uh,
I love qawwalis in India. Yeah, they are so
Kavali, that is
beautiful.
yeah, Pakistan, India.
Qawwali, yeah, great.
Great, that is great. And then there was a time when the Kavali was very sincerely taken because the Kavali was actually um, they used to create at that time, but slowly it was taken from in a Bollywood films and became then it lost its now it is not I never saw the Kawal which are really doing something uh, themselves. And but ghazal singers are still there, but they are not singing their own ghazal, they are singing somebody else ghazal. In your case as a poet in your country, the poets are singing their own ghazal. That is the difference, and that make more
Right.
important. So,
Yeah, I really like um, and want a poet or writer or an artist to play a musical instrument because in the traditional Uzbek literature, uh, many like um, our classic poets knew how to play at least one musical instrument. And they when they read their poetry, they when they did mushaira, we called it mushaira, like poetry reading, and they always had also accompanied with music every time they played something. They played like dutar, they played tar, so it was very good event. If you of course read only poetry for like hours and hours, it will be maybe like boring. But if you join a little music, if you add something like musical into your poetry, into your poetic event, it would make your event even better. That's why I really want a poet or a writer know something to play one instrument at least. That would be very useful to make your environment better, to make your events become better. Yeah, it is one of my wishes. And when I speak to Uzbek poets and writers and artists, I encourage them to use their time to learn how to play at least like a national instrument or like guitar or a piano. It would be very good for them.
so music and instrumental music with the poetry, which is actually a very old. It was the old tradition for in many countries in our country also, but in
Yeah,
modernity has destroyed it. And especially in the Kerala where I live, I have seen people singing so nicely their poetry, and suddenly it is stopped because they got influenced by the poets from the North India, and then they felt that they have to read their poetry, which is very boring sometimes because they do not know how to read even because reading poetry itself is an art. No, even
definitely.
if you read a poetry, then also your poetry can accompany with the music. Like Struga and all, it happened with us also when we have gone to
Yeah,
Italy and these countries. So their instrument, they play instrument with our prose poetry, and it goes well. But in my country, it does
yeah.
not happen, especially in my language. And so I don't try in my country, but when I go out, I love to have instrument with my poetry, which is a prose, not a music. Uh,
Great.
the people have a wrong. There were two things happen. One thing that when there was a time when the people were trying to make in a rhyme, they forgot that they have to change the theme also. For example, I have seen that like Mushaira in India also it happens. But Mushaira, you know that they are taking one or two themes only, like love and anger and some things like that, some a few things. But they do not know that do not know how to bring a political situation, how to bring society in their ghazals. They do not make ghazals contemporary. That may be a cause the music have gone from the Indian poetry,
Yeah.
especially the poetry which has a thoughtful poetry, which has some meanings, which can give the because the ghazal poets on the ancient time, they were very contemporary to their time. They were very contemporary. Ghazal or music, Geetikar, what you say, the poets who can sing their poetry were very contemporary to that time. So that art we have forgotten in India also. So I'm happy that you are keeping that, and you are actually very strong uh, voice of your country as a poet. I know that because when you come to poetry festivals, you bring poets from your country and you become their voice because they do not know English. So you introduce them, you play, you put, you give them place in a stage. And one more thing that the women poets from your country are extremely beautiful because when they used to come and we used to watch them, even I, that uh, how beautiful these girls are. So this is actually fantastic. Fantastic.
Thank
So,
you, Rati. Yeah.
do you want to say something more about? Do you want me to say something more?
I just want to repeat, Rati, that today, um, especially for creative people like us, exchange has become number one, very important thing. And I'm very glad, despite this pandemic, despite this lockdown and everything, difficult situations everywhere in the world, you are trying to bring people closer with each other. You are trying to do some good projects like this today. And it is very important. Uh, I mean, exchange for not only poets, not only for writers or creative people, not only for artists, exchange of minds, exchange of ideas and initiatives and projects is very important and useful for the entire world. I believe this from my heart. That's why I'm alive. That's why I'm writing. That's why I'm doing some projects. That's why I'm bringing people to Uzbekistan or trying to help Uzbek people go abroad and do something with other people. That's why we are bringing you and other friends to our houses and flats so that we can do something together. You know, and this world, which is like IT world, is not really very good in terms of we cannot like meet face to face. We can talk, of course, online. We can do online poetry sessions. We can do online poetry festivals. However, meeting face to face, talking face to face, sitting tete a tete, and eating and drinking and like
Sure.
speaking with each other is the most important thing. It has
Yeah.
become the most valuable thing ever. So I'm for this, and I just want whoever is listening to us right now, I just want to invite everybody uh, to come together closer to each other, to do more events face to face, to share good things with each other so that this world will become little bit a little bit more beautiful, a little better, so that our children, the generations to come, will have a better uh, exchange, relationship, and a better life to live.
Yeah, thank you, Azam. This was our idea also in Kritya. Our means now I am running all alone. So after that 10 days we had a Kritya festival after this in this lockdown itself. But after that I feel that the listening poetry for 5 minutes or 10 minutes, this is different thing. We can learn many things, not only the poetry, that many things, and we can discuss the political, social, and many other directions and about the world by talking like this. That is why I have started this Kritya talk, and we have some few, very few takers. Sometimes people come, sometimes they don't come. And I always keep this in a YouTube, that so that if somebody want to know, because what I learned, because I know you for years, but you remember that in Japan we had a one event when we were together in a Japan, no, not Japan, together in a project of this Japanese um, that haiku things. No? I had to write 8 lines. You have to write 4 lines for their space center. So
Yeah. That was
yeah,
the
it was
wonderful
fantastic.
project I have ever
Yeah,
attended.
beautiful project for 8 lines. I
Excellent
got
project.
10,000 rupees. That was the petty.
Rati, yeah. I always tell if someone wants to boast, wants to
Uh,
praise himself, I say, don't praise yourself. My poems have been read in the moon. I say,
Mine also. Yeah, I got.
that was true. Actually, yes, our poems. Yeah, your poem we also was
Yeah,
read
we
in
were
the
12
moon
poets.
by
We were
the
12
Japanese
poets.
astronaut.
12 poets
Exactly. Yeah.
around the world, and it was fantastic. So uh, that's what I want people to know about your country, your culture, and little bit itself, and then they can communicate with them. They can, if they want to go to Uzbekistan, they can have a connection there. They can know very well, and so that is why I organize this thing, and I'm very grateful to you. I know that you are very busy, but I'm very grateful to you that you are. Mm, uh,
Thank you, Rati.
you came today because I'm asking you for 1 or 2 months. uh, but I give space to the poet that you take your you
Thank you
choose
so
your time,
much,
your
Rati.
turn. So you are
I'm
my
so
younger
grateful.
brother.
Thank
I
you.
really love you, brother. You are really doing great work, and I hope
Thank
this
you.
let Corona go and let us come to Uzbekistan and let
Thank
us
you.
sing with you together. Let us eat together. Let
Inshallah.
us sit together. Let us walk together. So that is
Inshallah.
my dream now, inshallah. So
Inshallah. We'll do that.
we will like to have this fantastic movement in our life. Just we wish for it. So thank you, Azam. Thanks a
Thank
lot.
you, Rati. Thank you so much. Hope we will meet this year, inshallah, in fall, in autumn, in Uzbekistan.
Thank you,
Take
brother.
care.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bye
Thank
bye.
you.
Bye. Thank you. Bye.